I don't want a pickle. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Hello, everybody. This is the Noco Moto podcast, episode number 270. Oh, it's 278 or 279, somewhere around there. I'm your host, MotoGP. With me is your other host, Swiggy.
Yep.
Coming to you from Moto One Podcast Network Studios, recording Suite A, otherwise known as the Tiki Room. Let's see here. I'm not even going to bother with going on what we're going to talk about this episode. We're just going to jump straight into content, right? Because we're on YouTube. We can't be making people wait for the content. We can't be setting the show up. We can't be professional. This is fucking YouTube, right?
Sure.
All right.
Let's go.
Let's go. So let's just jump into best worst bike in the world this week, and let's see how much content we can pack into an hour 30, hour 40, somewhere in there. So, do you want to do best worst bike in the world this week? Do we want to do emails? Do we want to do a discussion topic? Which one do you want to jump into first?
Well, let's just do what we always do.
So try to take over the world. All right. Mm-hmm. Best worst bike in the world this week. Swigs and I have each chosen a different motorcycle. We don't know each other have chosen. It's always a surprise. You may have feelings about this. You may not. If you do, send those things to contact@nokomotopodcast.com, or if you're listening on the audio podcast, you can just click the send us a text button or whatever you want. I highly encourage you to write a letter and mail it to Moto One Podcast Network Studios, courtesy of MotoGP. That would really tickle me. You know, there's a non-zero chance it makes it here. Just saying. All right, so Swigs, you have best bike in the world this week.
I do.
And are you ready to reveal it?
I am.
Okay. And the best bike in the world this week is
the 2025, or any of the current generation, Honda Rebel 1100.
This is another one I think we've done not that long ago. But again, this is such a great bike. It's worth... Well, I know we did the 1100T, the Touring. I don't know that we did just the Rebel 1100 sort of au naturel.
Are you sure we did? Well, we're going to do it again.
We're going to do it again. Doesn't matter.
So, this is...
Oh, this is a good zombie. Sorry. It just hit. I only had the tiniest sip of it, but like I made another change to it. I haven't made one exactly like this, but... Go ahead.
This is possibly, well, of the cruiser world, this is the sensible ride. This is a bike that will do everything that you need it to, while also being incredibly affordable and is incredibly moddable, reliable, and a little bit understated, but also kind of fixes a lot of the problems that Honda kind of had in the cruiser category before, which is you couldn't really customize any of their other bikes without getting really weird with it.
It's true. I've been riding the Rebel 300 a lot. I put bags on it. I'm still trying to find the right windshield, and it is a bitch trying to find the right windshield. The handlebars are quite unique on the Rebel. They're just a shape that, I don't know, you just don't see anywhere else. The Rebel 1100 is a different frame than the 300 and the 500. I can confirm, having looked up a lot of aftermarket parts for these things. I've sat on one of these. I have not fired it up in anger, but I've put several thousand miles on the Rebel 300 now. And at first I was like, yeah, this is kind of a little bit cramped. But as I get more and more used to it, I'm like, I don't know. I think I could go across the country on this. It's not bad. It takes a little getting used to, but that's because I'm not really a cruiser guy, right? You take any cruiser guy and you put him on a sport bike and they're like, oh my God, my legs are all bunched up. And you take anyone that's used to a sport bike, you put them on a cruiser and they go, oh my God, my legs are all bunched up.
Yeah.
But the truth is you just need to learn to deal with it. It's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So ultimately with this bike, I think in a lot of cases in terms of a sensible ride, you could also have gone with the Rebel 500 before, because that's something that can easily do highway miles. I mean, the 300 can basically do it.
This is more than double the power, though, for not that much more money.
There's that. But really what this gets you over the other two in terms of real-world capability is purely the aftermarket options. Yes, it's got more power. Yes, it's got a boatload more torque, and it does things that it's got some power that people care about. But realistically, it's the fact that, this is now a big boy bike that people are willing to throw big boy money at. And people are much more, this is no longer in that kind of beginner intermediate category. And so now there's this whole market of aftermarket parts. So this is a heavily moddable bike. And this is a bike that also has garnered enough attention that there are owners groups for this bike. And so if you can't find what you're looking for, there's somebody who can find it for you, or somebody who's done something similar.
I'm not even interested in the aftermarket for this bike. What MSRP on this is like 11,000, 10.5, somewhere around there.
9,600.
Gee, I keep forgetting how fucking good it is. So $9,600. It is. I don't know how much horsepower the Nightster is making, but horsepower for dollar, it's a lot better than a Harley Davidson Nightster. It is, as far this is a cruiser bike, and we are talking more power than like a 2006, Harley Davidson twin cam.
Yeah, I believe this is.
It's like high 70s, low 80s.
I believe it's 80 horsepower.
Yeah. Which, again, it's so much more than you think it is, and this bike is light, so it moves. I wouldn't be surprised if this spanks a Nightster all day. It's not as much torque, but whatever. We know this 1100 motor from various other Honda bikes. This isn't Honda's first go with this motor. This motor's figured out here.
Yeah, it's that 1100cc parallel twin, and this is kind of that workhorse motor from Honda that kind of fits into the large and the mid to large range bike options. It's in the Africa Twin. It's in the new touring bike, the NC. It's in, not the NC, the NT. Mm-hmm. And it's in this. And the thing is, this is a motor that has now gone into at least 3 different bikes. It's probably going to go into more. And this is a motor that Honda's probably made hundreds of thousands of, and is going to be one of those immortal engines that will have parts support for the next 70 years.
Right, so we can go on and on and on all fucking night about things that make sense. The amazing price point, the power that you get for the price point, the build quality. This is an unbelievably easy bike to ride. I can tell you from the 300 and the 500, the people are like, oh my gosh, why would I pay $5,500 for the Rebel 300? I'll tell you why. It is the easiest bike in the world to ride. It's just effortless in every single way. And people look at the tires and go, I don't know how well this is going to corner. And people look at the controls and the foot position and everything, go, I don't know about that. Fuck you. Get on one and take it down the road, and you'll go, fuck, this is just the easiest miles I've ever done. It's not a strain. All the controls are effortless. There's like riding my Goldwing is pretty effortless, except, like the brake levers and the clutch and everything are kind of a bit heavy and da-da-da-da. Like this, like...
It's a different kind of premium because it's following the Honda ethos, so it needs to be intuitive and smooth and easy and handle well. And it kind of fits at the right price point for that. Once you start spending a lot more money, you kind of want it to be a little bit fucked up. You want it to be kind of a little bit obnoxious to ride and say like, oh, this is a real...
Right, have the quote character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this just fits right in these bikes just fit right in that. No, everything is smooth and easy and predictable, and it rides as, it's almost down to like an extreme science of like, this is the smoothest, most intuitive ride you can have.
So I know that this bike is a hit, and I'm about to drop names like I do in every fucking podcast I know, but I know that this design is an A+ absolute hit, not because they've sold a shit ton of them, because they have sold a shit ton of them. Okay. When I show up to work, there are 2 of these that show up, right? There are 2 dudes that ride these into work every day, and they're both the 1100s, not the 500s. And one of them is the T, and one of them's just standard. I see them around town, right? And they've sold a shit ton of them. You see them in the wild, but I don't even need to look at the sales numbers to know that this is a hit, design-wise, price point, power as a package, and all that stuff. I know this is a hit because Liza from the Misfits and Phil from Cleveland Moto fucking hate it.
Okay.
Well, because they are exactly the people that this is not for.
That's probably true, yeah.
And they have very good reasons for not liking it. It's just not for them, right? Everything they would want to do with this bike, there's something that's a little bit more of a mature ride or a quirky ride or a more special, a more desirable, a more whatever thing that scratches their special itch. This isn't a bike for the big time enthusiast, although you certainly can be a big time motorcycle enthusiast and own one. It's kind of like, apparently if you ask Jay Leno privately what his favorite car is, he's like, well, my wife has this Fiat 500 and it's fucking amazing. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, and not like an old classic Fiat 500, like a new one. Right. And he's like, it's really nice to drive. Right. There is a thing where, there is such a thing as like, the guy that has like 4 collectible Ducatis, but he's like, well, when I don't give a shit, I just get on the Rebel 1100. Right. And it's quietly really good. Right. So there is,
it's sort of like those classic car guys who will drive, all these different, like, specialty, like, limited release Porsches and all these, like, fancy cars, and they go out and, as their day job, they go and review Ferraris. And then, like, and they own several classic cars, and then they just drive, like, a little electric Golf. And that's their daily driver, and they put 10 times more miles on that than anything else.
Right. I mean, and like I said, in person, Liza's just like, well, I rode the Rebel 300 in California, and she was like, how do you deal with this? And I'm like, it's great. What are you talking about? Right. The 1100, like I said, it is a little bigger, a little bit more comfortable, but what it is trouble-free Honda cruiser miles. And it solves every problem that everyone ever had with a Shadow. Now, there are still people who are like, oh my God, it's trying to be an 883 Iron Sportster or whatever. Like, I don't know. Is it? I think it looks different enough. I think it looks very distinctly Honda, but this is competing with the Nightster. This is competing with, I don't even know if Yamaha's still doing the Bolt. They must be.
I would think so.
But it's kind of that entry-level cruiser. But entry-level cruiser now entry-level cruiser used to mean 50 to 65 horsepower. All of a sudden, entry-level cruiser means 80 plus horsepower.
Yeah.
Like the Rebel 300 and 500, as much as I love them, I wouldn't call them cruisers. I don't know what the category is. They are very small. They're small bikes is what they are. They're just small bikes. And they just kind of happen to be vaguely cruiser shaped, but they're not really cruisers. This is properly a cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
And it's somehow entry level. I mean, it's $10,000 essentially, but that's the world we live in. That's entry level price now, right? And that's where I think people lose the plot with this bike. They're like, well, $10,000, blah, 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 blah. Look, I don't think an entry level bike should be $10,000 either, but here we are. The Scout 60 is what this is also against.
Yeah.
And it's, the Scout 60 has a bit more character and this and that and whatever, but it's also legacy fraud and blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
There's also, a lot of people also kind of think that, people that like, when you get out into the boonies, out of the city, like all the rednecks out in the countryside, that they're all going to be Harley guys, and it's just Harley this, Harley that all day. There's a big segment of people who live out in the boonies who just don't give a fuck about any brand whatsoever. And
they're not shy with Japanese brands because that's what they've ridden dirt their whole life.
Exactly. And they'll go, and depending on how price sensitive they are, they'll go a lot of them will go, like there's a segment that'll go Japanese, and then if they're really looking for a bargain, they'll go Chinese.
I have been out driving in the country many a times and passed someone with the garage door open, and it's, there's like a Camaro parked in the driveway. There's non-running vehicles in the grass. There's a Trump flag in the yard. And yet somehow the whole inside of that garage is just plastered with shit that says Kawasaki.
Right.
Kawasaki flags, Kawasaki whatever. Like, yeah. There are definitely dudes that are like, well, I love the motor company, but, Honda racing, man, or whatever. It exists. So the idea that it sucks because it's a cruiser and it's not an American-style cruiser doesn't hold any fucking water with me. But also, the age range that it's for doesn't give a fuck about Harley-Davidson. If you can just remove Harley-Davidson is the be-all and end-all of cruisers from your mind, and you go into a dealership as not a motorcycle person, a motorcycle curious person.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you start looking at this versus a Scout 60, which is not the most comfortable bike in the world. It's not awful, but that is definitely like feet forward, This is sort of somewhere in between neutral and feet forward, whereas the Scout's kind of full on feet forward. And that's not for everyone.
Well, I know that Indian does make they do make a more ergonomic Scout 60 that's got the handlebars come a bit further back and they've moved the controls closer.
Yeah, but the dealerships are just all packed with those Scout 60 bobbers.
It's true.
That's what's selling. That's what they move.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they do have.
Good luck finding one, but sure. But for me, I love this motorcycle because, again, big motorcycle people are like, well, why would I be interested in this? Exactly. Why would you be? It's not like you're the first bike you're buying new.
Right. And, there's not... the notion that I would buy one of these anytime soon is impossibly low.
We're in the same boat as Liza and Phil,
Right.
but we're able to see past ourselves a little bit and go, "But I can't pick on Phil and Liza that much." I mean, but like they're just the first two examples I can think of, and it's people the listeners know as well. But like,
Well, it's not an uncommon opinion.
it's not uncommon. Lots of people hate this because they're like, "Well, why?" But it doesn't matter. It sells. They sell a fuck ton of them, and they sell a fuck ton of them because like hardcore motorcycle people don't listen to motorcycle podcasts. They watch some YouTube stuff, and realistically what they're going to see is shorts about this and videos from like the release of journalists going, well, here are the specs and blah 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 blah, and it's like reading a motorcycle write-up from like 2001. And they're going to be like, oh, it's really smooth, and the whatchamacallit, like number plate clutch, and the this and the that, and none of it will tell you how it actually rides. They're just going to keep finding articles that say bikes are great and whatever kind of like piles up the most number of things, and then they walk in the dealership and go, well, I'm interested in this, this, and this, because everyone who walks in to buy something new has done like 30 hours of research already. Right? Why wouldn't you?
We don't need to talk about this right now because I think it'll come up in our topic later. But something to put a pin in is when it comes to, more affordable bikes, they often either go extremely hated or extremely loved. So what is the dividing aspect that makes a lot of people hate this bike but love the TW200? Just keep that in your back pocket and we can come back to that.
Oh, yeah, I could tell you right now, but we'll keep it in the back pocket. Yeah. So what I like, I've said many times recently that I love engineering trade-offs. And this bike isn't so much an engineering trade-off because it's doing a very un-Japanese thing, which is throwing displacement at the problem. But Honda have kind of made the magic work by going, listen, we're just going to make, we've got our 550 or 500, which is actually a 450 really, twin. And then we go up to the 750 and we've got the 1100 and we're going with twins. We're going back to Honda twins. The thing with this is that rather than just engineer everything to their very Japanese sensibility, they've pushed the displacement and the performance right up to what people are comfortable with. Right? No one's going to look at this and go, 80 horsepower, it's not enough. Right? Any person
in their
quiet
but their pose
moments,
are trash.
Well, they'll go like, okay, it's a cruiser. It doesn't have to be like R1 fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to get left behind with 80 horsepower. You're just, especially with what this thing weighs. These are like 420 pounds or something.
Oh, they're a bit more than that, but
the 1100 really?
I know they're under 600. Actually, I don't.
They got to be
way. True. Hang on. Let me
a wide glide is like 650 pounds.
Let's see what it is. It is.
I bet it's between 450 and 480. Just the standard, not the T or anything.
Lighter than I thought. 487 wet.
487?
Wet, yes.
Okay, I was 7 pounds off. Yeah, okay. So, right, sub 500 pounds, that's light for cruiser.
There's sport bikes that weigh more than that.
Oh, my old Ninja 650 was north of 500 pounds. Or 600.
Yeah.
My 90s Ninja 600. But yeah. So what they've done with this is push the performance and the displacement up to what you're comfortable with. And then maxed everything else out for practicality.
Yeah.
Rather than just go for all practical from the get-go. Because that's what the 300 and 500 do. So rather than have rather than do what you expect Honda to do and make the most practical cruiser that's ever existed, they went, okay, for the American market, we have to make this concession with power and displacement. Right?
Yeah.
The Scout 60's 1 liter, we're going 100 more. Right? We're going, we're giving it that extra 5-6 horsepower over the Indian Scout, right? We're going to give it a little bit more mid controls than that and all that sort of stuff. But like the power is there.
Yeah.
And then everything else is max for comfort and affordability. And that's the sweet spot for these new buyers.
And I think another angle here is, yes, Indians do make some more. There are more powerful Indians that you can buy, and Harley's now starting to release some of the liquid cooled motors, and they're going up and they're getting some serious power now. But another bike that I've kind of shit on in the past, but probably should have a little bit more respect for, that this is kind of replacing, is the Honda Shadow. And when you look at that bike...
I love me a Shadow, but this is so much better than a Shadow.
Well, it's true, but I'm thinking about more the role that it will fill in the future. Because, how many Honda Shadows are out there that just have, 7 to 10 layered, coats of different colored paint on them that have just been picked up and traded hands, and if you just started to saw into that tank, you could just count the rings.
Oh, like a jawbreaker.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's so many. And now this is almost, maybe in 5 to 10 years, some of these will kind of hit that spot where it's like, okay, this starts to become the new Honda Shadow, where these, people start trading these for guns and drugs and trailers, and these are almost, maybe at a certain point these will take place in the shadow economy on a barter system.
I think that the Rebel 3 and 500s will realize that much sooner than these do. These cost a few $1,000s more. They're a little bit more usable. And I think the owners aren't going to, a Rebel 3 and 500, we've had that Rebel 300 for almost 4 years now. That's unusual. The Rebel 300 is very much a stepping stone, and so is the 500. But Claire just loves the shit out of that bike. Every time we bring up, well, should we get you something else? She rides it and she's like, I like this one.
Yeah. Well, yes, but I think those are more kind of transition, because those are more stepping stone bikes. They tend to stay stock more. Whereas this might be more like the Shadow 750 in that it's kind of a... Well, obviously not right now because they're still new and they're still kind of good performance for the price point. But when there's another generation of motors that go into these, and these have got, over 20,000 miles on average, and there's lots of examples of them with 50 and 100,000, and they're starting to, go down to kind of base running motorcycle price. I think it will eventually become the new Honda Shadow.
Well, let's hope so. Because that's kind of the idea. Let's get a shit ton of people buying these. Yeah. It's everything that you need, nothing you don't, and like I said, everything on these just fucking works. Okay, let's not go in circles too much. Let's go to worst bike in the world this week. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay. And the worst bike in the world this week is Harley Davidson golf carts.
What?
Yeah. It's not really a motorcycle, but it's in the motorcycle world, okay? I am fucking tired of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist being polluted with Harley Davidson fucking golf carts. So I did a little reading about these things. Everyone's seen them, right? The fucking things, they're three-wheeled. Harley did make four-wheel golf carts, but the vast majority of them are these three-wheeled things. They don't have a steering wheel. They don't have handlebars. They have like the steering mechanism of like a fucking like paddle boat, right? It's just sort of this weird like bar. It's like there's like a fucking theremin coming off the front of it that either person can grab and turn the wheel, right?
This is kind of like one notch up from like the spinner on a teacup ride.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous. The things are fucking dumb. Like they all seem to have crash bars because why wouldn't they have crash bars? There's no way someone can like actually steer it with both hands, right? You're sitting on the left or the right. And so you're either like grabbing it over here or grabbing it over here, right? You can't really properly steer the thing. So it's a good thing they're slow. Now, apparently at some point, these things did have 252 strokes in them. But if there were any of them that were any good, because I think Harley started making these in like the early 60s. It wasn't that long until 1969, 1970 came around, and then AMF started making these. And
I feel like
they did make them again after Harley Davidson bought themselves out, but then after a while, after like 1981, 82 or something, they're not even made by Harley Davidson. They're just badged Harley Davidson, and they were made by some other company. So
I feel like these should come with an interlock device on them, and unless you blow above a .08, it won't start.
right, yeah. Yeah. Well, and like this is a vehicle that you're not going to find, cocaine in it. You're going to find an old moldy can of Copenhagen. Right.
Yeah.
You're going to find dip in the like if you buy one of these off of Craigslist, I guarantee you like next to the batteries cuz like half of these were electric. There's just a Budweiser can. Actually, it's probably a can of Miller Genuine Draft, MGD in a can. It was 30% filled with spit in 1986, and then like all the moisture evaporated out of it, and there's this layer of dip tar on the bottom of that rusty can that's sitting next to the batteries. Underneath every single one of these that's for sale on fucking Facebook Marketplace. Just as sure as that ad says rare collector's item, blah, 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 bullshit that either has fucked out electric motor parts or a two-stroke that's going to be a pain in the ass to get all the right shit for, or whatever the fuck else that's going to be dumb about this fucking thing. It's three wheels. It's not going to be good for riding around your farm or ranch. It is not any good for riding around your retirement community. No one gives a fuck. It is not rare. It is not collectible. It is not cool. You know what I've never seen at a golf course? A working Harley Davidson golf cart. You know what I've never seen in a gated community? A restored Harley Davidson golf cart. You know what I've never seen someone drop real money for at a swap meet? A Harley Davidson fucking golf cart. If you want a weird golf cart, at least get a Cushman shark nose, okay? I am just so fucking over seeing these things. It really is driving me fucking insane. I can't, like...
I mean, yeah.
It's like when you see a tuk-tuk or some other like vehicle that someone cannot get plated and street legal just relisted over and over and over again, and then like it disappears for like a year and a half, and they sold it. Then the next person who bought it is like, oh, fuck. Now I have to get rid of the monkey's paw. And it comes up again. Like, it's not enough that just every single one of these someone is trying to sell for probably $4,000 too much money, by which I mean they're selling these for $4,001, not running, right? It's that every single one of them pollutes Craigslist no less than 27 times per fucking golf carts.
Yeah, it's well, it's also kind of a false history, right? Because, like, yeah, sure they made them, but like this was never a cultural thing. It's just, oh, this is obscure Harley Davidson, so it must be worth something.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the number of, like, it's not even like Harley Davidson people are aware of this either, right? Like during the AMF years, they made a bunch of weird shit. And you know, in the 50s and 60s, right? It's like in every Harley Davidson dude's life, there's that moment that they learn about the Harley Davidson topper. Right? They're like 200cc, like 4-stroke scooter or whatever it was. I don't know if it was 2-stroke or 4-stroke, whatever it was. They made a scooter. And it's basically a total knockoff of a Cushman. But yeah, this is like that. Like at some point they're like, well, you know, Harley made golf carts. You know, because golf is like, has become this weird redneck sport all of a sudden.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird good old boys at like the cheap golf courses all of a sudden, and I don't know what's up with that.
Well, it's because all the Harley owners are old, and it's the only thing they can do now.
I guess it's just weird.
It's just more accessible.
Well, because we've got the cheap golf course like a couple blocks away, right? And we go hang out at the clubhouse there because it's like the cheapest bar in town. And they got breakfast burritos. So Claire and I go there all the time. And there's always like dudes in like American flag shorts and like a Jimmy Buffett t-shirt.
The Jimmy Buffett t-shirt is a bit much, but American flag shorts will always be timeless.
I'm not saying there's a problem with wearing American flag shorts, right? We're like 6 weeks away from the 4th of July. There's a time and place, and it could very much be a great thing. I'm just saying that somehow, like there, like you know, Redneck Yacht Club, there's been some sort of like move into golf with these dudes. But you would think that then they'd be like, well, yeah, let's get a Harley Davidson golf cart. But nobody wants to fucking touch these things. And they're right not to. But they are taking up too much space. Like, I'm not a huge fan of sending shit to the crusher that could otherwise be fixed or electric converted or whatever, but these aren't even good as golf carts. Right?
Well, yeah.
As a dude who has driven a lot of golf carts drunk, I flipped a few golf carts in my time. Looking at this, I'm like, this is sketchy even for me. When I was like 19, I worked on a golf course. And the coolest thing to ride around by far was we had one of those gators, those John Deere gators, but we had one that was a manual 4-speed.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing would do like, you know, 30 miles an hour or 28 at least, some like high 20s at least. And there were a couple hills you could go off of and get like 6 inches of air. When you knew no one was paying attention, like no one's watching the cameras too closely, you could launch it. You can't launch this thing. You can't do donuts on this thing. You can't drift with this. You can't do any of like the cool golf cart stuff. Like I don't know if the brake is on the front wheel or the back wheels, right? I don't even know if you can do that thing where like you're on the golf course, it starts raining, and you slam the brakes and just slide along the grass. Like I don't know that you could do any cool golf cart shit with this.
Right.
I mean, well, the steering's a problem. They're almost all 2-seaters. Some are 4-seaters, but the 4-seaters are dumb because you can't carry your fucking clubs if it's 4 seats.
But also, I think like
and they're heavy as fuck.
The 3-wheeled golf cart is a fundamentally flawed design because the number one
all 3-wheelers are a flawed design, but this doubly so.
But especially for golf carts, because the number one feature of a golf cart, like the absolute biggest requirement, is that it has to be a reliable drunk driving machine. Like,
yeah.
There are so many people who just spend all day at the golf course. There are quite a few unscored games being played at the golf course because it's really...
Oh, I never keep score on like the once a decade I go golfing. There's no fucking keeping score.
It's just ridiculous.
The only thing I'm counting is how many lines I'm doing. Like that's it. If I'm golfing, that's all. That's it.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. Just like, can we just set some more of these things on fucking fire?
Yeah, I think this is just the angle here is like, can we all just actually acknowledge what is and isn't valuable? And this is not valuable.
No. Well, here I'll end it with this. This would be a great thing to do with these, right? So again, 4th of July is coming up. I can't go. Well, you can. Yeah, I think tickets are sold out. But we have an especially good Destruction Derby at our 4th of July rodeo here in town. And everyone gets really excited about the RV class. I think there's a lot of possibilities in a golf cart class.
Well, the problem with a golf cart...
Put big dirt tires on them. You don't need nearly as strong a cage.
Right, but you do actually need to be able to kill them. I don't know if these have enough power to actually ram into each other. Like, is there an exposed radiator that you can actually crush and disconnect? Can you ram into the side of another one?
Oh no, these were all air cooled, and I feel like
there's a fragility to power ratio required for a destruction derby.
There's a way it can be figured out. I'm just saying that would be a great use for these.
Yeah.
A golf cart class destruction derby. All right. Anyway, I mean, like finding a fucked up RV, you can find fucked up golf carts on Craigslist all day long. If there's some prize money involved, there are people that will do whatever's necessary. Just saying. All right, so
I think my favorite destruction derby class I've ever seen is you've got to get really out into the boonies, but the classic combine harvester destruction derby may be the greatest class. That's a special thing because again, they're not moving very quick, but there's so much inertia. That's good stuff. The combine. I'll tell you, one of the best ones I ever saw quietly. It was a class for front wheel drive cars, and what they did was they said, okay, there's no like straight ramming into each other. They built like a dirt track, but it wasn't flat. They built jumps into it. Okay. And they were like, rubbing is racing. In fact, rubbing is heavily encouraged.
And in fact, they were black flagging people for not being aggressive enough.
Nice.
Because their whole thing was like, there's not a whole lot of rear wheel drive, like V6, V8 cars left anymore to make good destruction derby cars out of.
So you just got to keep going around, and you got to hit
Right.
somebody every 30
So
seconds.
they were all like 89 front wheel drive Monte Carlos and shit, right? Or like Ford Contours, just like, you know, shitty, you know, mid 80s to mid 90s V6 American cars.
Some Ford Tauruses. Maybe.
Tauruses, yeah. And they were like crashing into each other like side by side, like midair and shit. They had to like weld all the cages and shit into them. But rather than just going straight on, they were going around this track that had like 3 jumps built into it. It was wild.
Nice.
It was wild. Okay. So let's move on. Do you want to do the discussion, emails? What do you want to do?
Let's do the discussion.
Okay. So we touched on this very briefly with the Rebel 500. We all think motorcycles are awesome, but we all have motorcycles that we hate. Why is that? Like, it's got 2 wheels and handlebars, right? We're talking about motorcycles. I don't care if it's electric or 2-stroke, 4-stroke, whatever. A 2-wheeled vehicle that you could legally ride in traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's even leave scooters out of it for the moment. A reasonable person would define it as a motorcycle. Yet, it doesn't really matter who you are. There's a motorcycle that you'll say like, oh, I fucking hate those. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it might be like you're a, I don't know, an ADV guy, and you're like, ugh, these fucking dumbasses with their turbo Hayabusas. Or you might be a Harley guy and be like, ugh, these fucking idiots with their crotch rocket, rice burner, blah, blah, blahs. Or you might be a crotch rocket guy and be like, ugh, what is up with these fucking old farts on gold wings? What's happening? Like, you know, but there's no motorcycle that's universally loved except maybe the Briton. And yeah, I mean, outside the Briton, like, you know, like every bike has someone that fucking hates it. And why is that? And I've got a little bit of a theory. I don't know that I need to like break down the whole theory right now, but let's like go through some of the reasons first.
Yeah. Oh, I think
that people would hate a motorcycle.
So I think two kind of obvious angles is one is a little bit of tribalism. And you know, the worst person in the world is somebody who is almost but not quite identical to you. And in that regard,
just enough to hold the mirror up to you, right? Yeah.
And you combine that with you know, in order to be a critic, in order to be a tastemaker, you have to know what's bad to know what's good. And so if you're really into super sports or super bikes and you're a Yamaha guy, you are obligated to hate all Honda CBRs. You just kind of have to.
Oh yeah, you'll get your card taken away.
So I think that's kind of the most shallow, obvious kind of angle. This is my thing, this is my identity, here's something very close to me, but it has to be awful, because this is my thing, and that's slightly different. I think that's probably the most straightforward one.
Yeah, so one reason that I think some people will hate something is, and this is a very shallow one, but some people will hate motorcycles just because of their performance or their performance type.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people who will, say like, like they'll just go, like, I hate Groms. And you're like, why? Like, is it because like people ride them in big groups and you don't like how they ride around town? They're like, no, they're just slow. Okay, I think there's more going on under the surface, but that's the reason they give. That's a
Right.
reason people give for disliking something, performance. Or, as you just said, well, I'm an R1 guy. Fuck the CBR. Why? Well, it's got like 8 horsepower less. Okay. Right?
Right.
But,
Yeah.
it's not even that. Sometimes it's the spec sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people will be like, oh, I thought about a VMAX once, but the tank's too small.
I think it was like in 2016 that it was sometime around mid 2010s that Yamaha upgraded the R6 to have 43 millimeter forks instead of 41 millimeter forks, and this was massively praised by a ton of people. And it was like,
Yeah. All of a sudden,
wait,
anything with 41 millimeter forks was completely inadequate.
but how many of those people who went on and on about it bought a new R6 with 43 millimeter forks? How many of them have bought an R6 since then? How many of them, like, in what way did this actually meaningfully affect a significant number of people? And how many of those people then, like how many people who talked about it and engaged in that and participated in that discussion then never bought a Super Sport with 43 millimeter forks? I'm guessing the majority.
Well, yeah, but also on the other side of things, how many of those people were folks, were people who, before 41 millimeter forks were the standard, when it was 39, 40 millimeter forks, 41 became the standard on all the 600s and all the 1 liter bikes. And they were like, yeah, you got to buy a bike with the 41s now because now they're stiff enough. You can do everything that you want to do. And then the 43s came out when you kind of need to go for the 43s now because now they're good enough that you can do everything you want to do on the trail. Like, with the 41s, like you'll be able to go out and like ride spirited, but like not real. You're not going to be competitive out there without the 43. Like, full of horse shit, completely, right?
Yeah.
I think my Super Hawk had like 38s on him or something. Did you ever hear me once be like, there's so much flex in these forks?
I remember, yeah.
They weren't even inverted forks.
Yeah, didn't you have like larger, like the diameter on the carburetors was larger than the forks on that bike?
Oh yeah, they were either like 38 or 39 millimeter forks, and they were 48 millimeter openings on the carbs. You could actually take the forks and stick them into the carburetors. But to be fair to the forks, they are the largest carburetors ever fitted to a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I ran into that old Super Hawk again this week. Yeah? Well, I was going through Loveland again, and this time the owner was outside, and it's not the dude that I sold it to. It's the dude after that.
So it's in the shadow economy now.
No, because the dude that I sold it to was a little bit sketchy. This guy seemed very much together. And he opened the garage. There was a CX500, a Moto Guzzi Ambassador. Okay. And you're going to love this. I can't remember which, but one of the two failed to launch Indian reboots before Polaris.
Okay.
There is some weird shit going on in this garage. And I was like, I am so glad you own this motorcycle. Like, yes, you are the guy. Yeah. And, because I pulled up and he was putting it on a trailer, and I was like, "You're not selling it, are you?" He goes, "No, no." I was like, "I used to own that bike, one of the best bikes I ever had, you know." And he's like, "Oh yeah, these are great." And I was like, "No, you don't understand that one." And he goes, "Wait, this one?" And I started telling him things about it, and he's like, "Oh shit!" Like, um, and yeah, actually, I found one of the old spare keys for it the other day. I'm going to drive by and like leave it on his doorstep. I don't know if it is before or after the lock change that I did on that bike, though. So we'll see. But anyway, I talked to him all about it, and like, he said it's been absolutely great. It's got about double the miles on it now, so it's getting like around like 46,000 miles, I think.
Mhm.
Because I want to say I bought it with like 16,000 and I sold it at like 28,
Okay,
something like
so
that.
it's getting a good 3,000 to 4,000 miles a year on it then.
Yeah, it's great. He
Nice.
said he was taking it into the shop because he thinks the cam chain tensioners, the little like pulley wheels, they're not pulleys, but the little wheels on the tensioners are getting a little sketchy. He heard some weird
Mhm.
noises and he was like, I hear these go bad. But the bike looks, again, identical to when I sold it. It's been taken care of.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't very long that dude had it in the interim, and this guy's had it the majority of the time. But anyway, back to what we're talking about hating bikes. Performance is one. People are just like, oh, I can't fucking stand this because it's not a whatever, right?
Yeah, which I think it is a stage that everyone goes through at some point,
But not
but
everyone leaves.
that's true. Yeah. I think, yeah, at a certain point, everyone kind of, with enough experience, you should come out the other side. Um, but that's definitely a thing. It's almost like it's definitely a big filter in a lot of people's motorcycle journey.
When I started riding, it wasn't so much about horsepower, but in my head, I had this thing that everything kind of needed to be as fast as a CB750. That was kind of like where fast started. Anything below that was like, can't do it.
Right.
And then I got that CB350, and I was like, well, anything that can at least do like 75, 80 miles an hour is fine, I guess. And then, finally scooters and everything. I'm like, you just need to be able to like get in traffic and piss people off, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Like whatever. You just need turn signals so you're street legal. Like that's it. Um, but yeah, so we said there's tribalism, there's performance. Some people are just super brand loyal. Well, I guess that's the tribalism thing.
Yeah.
Um, so the third one, this one's really tricky to describe. But if you've ever taken a class in media and advertising or read into this kind of stuff, the only reason people buy anything that's branded anymore isn't because they trust a brand. It's not because, like, when my dad's a Ford guy, so I'm a Ford guy, necessarily. It's not just tradition. It's that now the whole thing with branding is, well, being into this thing says this about me.
Hmm.
So there's this idea that if someone owns a certain kind of motorcycle, I guess they're not riding the right way or something. And it doesn't have to be associated with the brand. There are brands that people can be okay with, but they hate a certain model. And I think that the Harley Livewire is a great example of this. Well, there's actually probably better examples, but it's the most obvious in your face example because almost universally people hate the Harley Davidson Livewire, right?
Yeah.
And the fourth reason, I'm just going to say this real quick, is price. Some people just get offended at the cost of something because they don't like the idea that they're excluded from it. So you could say that people hate the Harley Davidson Livewire just because it's electric, but that's not true. Because all of a sudden rednecks love Cybertrucks. And the libs have always loved electric anything since like 2016, right? You know, people seem to love electric bicycles and Razor scooters and shit. Like, it's not just that it's electric. Some people might say they hate it because it's Harley Davidson, but that doesn't make any sense. This is like you said forever. Well, why does Harley make these great big gas guzzling things? Why don't they like modernize and do right? People might hate it for price. Well, why was it $30,000? Well, okay, but like you don't hate Lamborghinis, and those are like $300,000. It's not just price. Like, and well, I don't like what it says about me. Well, is that because it's an electric motorcycle or because it's an electric Harley? So it doesn't do the Harley thing like message wise? But Harley didn't want Harley dudes to buy it. Right?
Right.
And you can't say it's price either, again, because like, well, you're perfectly willing to buy $30,000 that say CVO on the side, you know, the bikes that, you know, like it. So my theory is that the Harley Davidson Livewire is the greatest example of why people hate motorcycles, because to hate a motorcycle, two of these four reasons have to cross. And for almost everybody, they all cross on the Harley Davidson Livewire. Like all four lines cross at this weird four corners of hatred towards two wheels, right?
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Because it is expensive, and it does have weird messaging because, well, depending on which side you are, it says Harley Davidson or it's electric. It's confusing that way, so it doesn't feel like it's like on brand for anybody. And you can hate the performance, not for the speed, but like for the range. You can hate the spec sheet if you want. And what was the last one that I said?
I don't know if
anyway,
did we cover this as a category? You know, the angle of what would the bike say about me if I was riding it?
Yeah, that was like the whole like modern marketing branding, right? Like, why are there people who are like, oh, I always have iPhones? It's not as strong as it used to be, but especially around like 2008, like having something Apple was like, oh, I'm a creative type. I have an Apple, right?
It was an extremely obnoxious time.
It was, right? But the iPhone still has a touch of that to it, right? Because why would people continue to pay so much for these phones that are twice as much as Samsung's that don't do anything extra, really?
Yeah.
Is it anything than, you know, the fashion of it, right? We're not even the fashion, but like what it says about you.
Yeah.
There are people like, you know, and they're like trying to choose between, well, am I going to buy a Forester or a Bronco? Well, like I have to have the American car because that says I'm not a pussy. Having the Subaru Forester will be like, whoa, this person, like, you know, can't drive properly. They're too concerned about the well-being of everybody else's dog.
It's like, well, somebody's going to think I'm a lesbian and cut me off in traffic if I drive the Forester. Like, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Heaven forbid that you shape your personality. but yeah. So, but I'm at this thing where like, yeah, I think two of these things have to cross for the most part. for it to not just be, well, I prefer this over this, to go, no, I hate this vehicle.
Well, certainly for there to be a communal discussion and for it to get momentum, yeah, having multiple angles that it crosses at is required.
Also, we're going to say at this point, there are some motorcycles from the past that you could say, okay, like, I hate Royal Enfields before 2016 because they're just so fucking unreliable. But that's not a thing like it used to be.
What do you mean?
Well, outside of like Chinese fling poo scooters, we're in like a kind of unprecedented level of reliability these days and build quality.
Yeah.
It is weirdly less of a factor than it's ever been, and I think it's less of a factor than brand statements.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not living in an age of, like motorcycles that are the equivalent of the Ford Pinto. Like that sort of thing kind of doesn't exist anymore unless you have gone so far outside of the normal consumer experience.
Right. So, I know that there's people who are going to say, like, well, you don't understand. I've owned so many blah, blah, blahs, and they just always fucking break, so I hate those motorcycles. Okay, sure. Any reasonable person would hate that motorcycle, like, with that experience. We're saying, like, I guess more towards people subjectively hating motorcycles for some weird reason. And these are kind of the four. The tribalism, the marketing, the cost, and the performance, the spec sheet. I want to say spec sheet more than performance because, people complain about only having 120 miles of range, but I've owned a motorcycle with 120 miles of range and accomplished an iron butt ride on it. Don't fucking tell me that 120 miles of range isn't enough, because on my gasoline powered motorcycle, it was enough.
I would say, I mean, maybe there is another one. I guess that this applies far more culturally to cars, but there is also somewhat the reputation of the owners. And
well, that's on the tribalism category of things.
I don't know if it is.
The reputation of the owners blends into the reputation of the bikes.
Yes, but it's kind of inverted. It's sort of like the same way that like Harley riders.
Come on. Like, we invented the term jixerism.
That's true. But no,
but it's R6 behavior, right?
But there's a difference between hating CBRs because your bike has to be better than the CBR. Because your bike is marginally better performance. Versus, hating BMW car drivers and hating Harley Davidson owners because they're assholes. One is these suck because I'm better than them. And the other is these people are just generally obnoxious and I hate them. I think there's a little bit of a difference there.
Sure, but again, broadly speaking, the four categories we came up with and the intersection of them was where this hate comes in, right? Yeah. Now, the obvious question after this is any of this bullshit worth it, right?
Well, if you're asking me to stop hating the Virago, that's not going to happen.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess, I have to address something now because the Virago is the biggest example of hating a motorcycle for its styling. Well, that might be the NM4 Voltus, but I love the NM4 Voltus and I refuse to admit it's ugly.
I kind of like the Voltus.
I love the Voltus.
I owned a Voltus for a couple years.
100%.
I mean, if I knew I could get out of it, like if I could sell it on for 500 less than I bought it for,
I'll take the risk.
I do.
I'll take the risk. I bought a gyro,
That's true.
Is there necessarily an exit strategy for the gyro? I don't think there is. So the thing with styling is that styling eventually comes around.
It's true. Yeah.
And in our quiet, moments, we'll admit in our heart of hearts that there are bikes whose styling used to drive us crazy that we've come around on. You, in the first year and a half of this podcast, said repeatedly that you couldn't fucking stand Valkyries.
No, I said I couldn't stand the current generation Valkyrie. And I hold to that.
Well, there is no current. You mean the 1800, like from
the 1800 Valkyrie.
I love that bike.
It's awful.
You should ride one, though. It's so...
Oh, I bet it's fantastic. It has to be. But...
It's a lighter F6B. It's so good. Like, they just haul ass.
I'm sure it rides amazing. It's just, styling-wise, I'll never be able to deal with it.
Okay. But, there are people that couldn't take... the Buells that are now like, oh, those were kind of cool looking bikes now that I think about it. And there are people that couldn't take V-Rods, and now they're like, ooh, now that they're kind of like these old tried and true bikes and maybe I could do a custom V-Rod, right? I mean, the V-Rod was kind of hated by the Harley Crab when they came out. And how many did we see last summer at the rally? Tons of them. Yeah. And they were all like very customed out. Like people put a lot of time and work to have these like super fast performance Harley Davidsons that they'd done all kinds of crazy shit to.
Besides the last gen Valkyrie, you have not mentioned a single bike that I haven't always liked. But
I'm not talking just about you. I'm saying that everybody has a bike that they couldn't stand at first. Right?
Yeah. Okay,
because let's face it, most people get into motorcycling, and I think way more than half of new people getting into motorcycling going, oh, I want a 50s or 60s styled motorcycle, if not an actual 19 or 50s or 60s motorcycle, right? What time are we at there?
We are at 1:15.
Okay, cool. But yeah, the vast majority of people get into motorcycle going like, well, there's people who are into motorcycles, but I'm special and I want to be into classic stuff because I'm an old soul and I'm more special and more classic and more appreciative than all these other people, even though I just got into this in the last 5 minutes. And that's an attitude that annoys a lot of people. I'm actually rather sympathetic to it. At some point, all of us had only been into motorcycles for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
It's not a problem. And if the look of old bikes and the romance of old bikes caught your eye, great. Whatever.
Yeah. I
don't really care about poserism in motorcycles at all.
Well, okay, hang on. So,
at the track, it's a little different.
Well, I think there is... I mean, there is something... I think there's a different dividing line that needs to be considered. Like, looking at all, like, old classic bikes is great. And, yes, we all went through different phases as we all discovered and went through motorcycles, and we got more and more familiar with it. We all kind of came up with our own personal taste. And as long as it is your personal taste, then fantastic. And you can find somebody at any stage in their motorcycle journey, and you can get excited with them. But there is a bullshit toxic angle that a lot of people take that should be heavily discouraged. And by that I'm referring to the bike exif people. The hardcore hipsters where everything that is cool and interesting is viewed through this weird social credit angle. And that should be shut down.
Well, see, this is you hating some motorcycles because you don't like what they would say about you if you had one. If you had one of these crazy bike exif cafe racers, you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe this bike is cool, but I can't be fucking seen on it.
No, it can't be cool. It can't be cool at all, because it's an absurd proposition to make this weird styled bike that never existed in any form whatsoever, that cost way too much money, aping a style of something that was...
Right. You hate this bike because three roads have come together here. Price for, like, why would you pay upwards of, like, $15,000 for a bike with 36 horsepower? You're like, B, it's legacy fraud. Like, this thing never actually existed, so how can you trade on heritage? C, I don't want to be lumped in with these fucking, like, weirdo bike exif people. Like, three roads cross here for you to hate every bike ever on bike exif. Right.
It might be all four, to be honest.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of us are immune from this. I'm not, like, it might sound like we're, like, identifying this thing and going, like, whoa, people less sophisticated than us throw out, like, hate at motorcycles.
Oh, we're not above this.
We're not above this. Yeah. Let me think. Let me be really honest here and think, like, what do I unreasonably hate just because these factors cross for me? What do I just not understand? I'll probably get a lot of sympathy for this, but I don't get the R1200C, the James Bond bike. And I
that
like
is a bad one, yeah.
There are a lot of bikes I like just because other people hate them. This is not one of them. I can't do it. I love wishbone front suspension.
Well,
I don't want to fucking see it. Hide it behind a fucking fairing. I can't. It doesn't look right. It's like looking at a left-handed guitar.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the R18.
I like how you just instantly were like, "Oh, you said I sympathize." Yeah, left-handed guitars are fucking dumb.
I guess the R18 kind of falls into that category. They kind of somehow managed to...
Sorry, Junkie. Junkie plays left-handed. But he at least actually plays a right-handed guitar, but it's flipped. So he doesn't play one with the cutaway on the wrong side, And he keeps it strung the right way. So if I go to Junkie's house, I can play his guitar. It's fine. But I don't like left-handed guitar as a rule. It looks wrong. The only time it's ever appropriate at all is the guy who sung the song that kills all the aliens in Mars Attacks, Slim Whitman.
Yeah.
He played left-hand guitar, and this is the only time it's appropriate, because if you find a video of him singing Indian Love Call, that when I'm with you, the dude's like 6'3", and he's got this weird block-shaped head with a pencil-thin mustache, and he doesn't really wear Western suits. He wore like 1980s styled suits in like 1960, and he plays this left-handed guitar, and it's just so perfectly weird with all the rest of the weirdness going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time you can give left-handed guitar a pass. And so, yeah. So, but I want to come up with a better example than the R1200C because most people can't deal with that bike. What's a bike that a fair number of people enjoy that I cannot do? What would I never be fucking seen on?
Oh, a Scout 1200.
No, I like the Scout 1200. I told you this when we rode him in Vegas. I said I wouldn't want to do a road trip on it, but for blasting around town, it's pretty good. Because it has almost exactly the same power numbers as the Super Hawk did.
So
the power delivery was it's a great engine.
You don't hate it. You just have the grudge against it for it not being a Victory Octane.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the experience of a Victory Octane. It's just, yeah, but the bike itself, it's not the Victory Octane's problem that it got renamed this stupid thing as an Indian, right?
Right.
Here's a great example. I could never own and ride a Harley FLH Electroglide.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a Road King as an FLH I could do, but not the Electroglide, the full dressed, touring thing. I don't like the dudes that are into those bikes in general. There are some exceptions. I don't like the way the bike looks. I don't like batwing fairings. I don't like the seating position. I don't like the power of the bike. I don't like that they're so expensive when I could get something for $6,000 to $7,000 that says Honda or Kawasaki or Suzuki on the side that does the same thing better. These are all kind of there's a lot of people buying that bike makes them feel cool. And I mean, the engine works and it will take them across the country and they'll be like, oh, it's so smooth. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This thing shakes all over the fucking place. But they're just like, no, man, you get up to 3,000 RPM and it all just evens out. I'm like, bullshit, it does. But like, whatever. No, dude, I put like the stage 16 on it and it's sweet. It's so responsive. And I'm like, we're talking about a push rod engine, right? But, they sell shit tons of those bikes. It makes no logical sense that I hate it. It's just these weird roads coming together that I don't like that bike.
Yeah.
But I still hate it, right? I can confront the truth of how dumb it is to hate that bike all I want. I still don't like it.
Mm.
But maybe now that we've said these words out loud, maybe the next time I see one at a gas station, like my body language won't be so like standoffish and fuck you-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I do back up what I say on this, and we say this about worst bike all the time. Worst bike in the world is only worst bike in the world this week. It doesn't actually mean that we hate the bike. Yeah. It just means that this bike, we're like, this isn't a good buy, or right now in our feels, this isn't adding up. Right?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of worst bikes in the world that I've picked that I have a higher probability of buying than a lot of the best bike in the world this week.
Exactly. Right. But, I've said this before, if you're riding something that's been a worst bike in the world this week and I meet you and you're excited about your bike, then I'm excited about your bike with you.
Yeah.
Meeting you, someone standing in front of me excited about their bike does trump everything for me. It can be a fucking BMW R1200C, the fucking James Bond front Hossack Unilever, whatever they fucking call that suspension, just out there in the open. This weird front swing arm that looks like a 2-stroke expansion chamber just being weird at the front of this motorcycle. Like, okay, you're right. It could be, I don't know, what's something else that most people can't deal with? It could be a fucking 90s katana. And if you're like, no, man, it's air cooled, it's super simple. I can do the valves myself in like 2 hours. And I'm like, cool, great.
I mean, I still don't like the Gen 1 katana.
You're on a weird island with that one. A lot of people didn't, but most people now have come around to being like, Gen 1 katana is pretty cool.
I don't think I'll ever get there.
It's everything you could want. It's a German-styled Suzuki that's out there to beat the CBX. Like, it's this great convergence of things to create this perfectly weird.
It looks like a fucking gas-powered beard trimmer. It's fucking weird. It's never not going to be weird. It's...
Well, this is great. Like, yeah, again, you're just like doubling down, which is great. Like, always double down. Always. I love doubling down. Foolishly doubling down is a big hobby of mine. So, okay. I think we're at the end of this conversation, which is good because we're probably at about an hour and a half.
Thereabouts. We're like 5 to 10 minutes short.
Okay, well, let's give the people like the full 90 minutes then who are non-Patreon. Have we got a couple emails that we could do real quick?
I have not checked.
Okay. There was a text that we got. I don't know from who, but we got a text from someone who was like, hey, you were talking about the Vnox. And they were saying that they were in a dealership or something, and the Vnox was actually the very first thing they ever saw from Kimco. It was their introduction to the Kimco brand.
Oh, no, this was an email from Peter, serial emailer from Australia.
Did he email it and text it?
Yeah, and he sent pictures as well.
Ooh, okay.
And he said, you had the Vnox as worst bike recently. In Australia, due to the 250cc learner limit of the time, we got so many Japanese market 250s over the years. Some were awesome, like the Suzuki Across, and the light sports single SRX 250 / CBX 250 / NZ 250. In my honest opinion, the Vnox was a direct copy of the Honda VT 250C, also called a Magna in some parts. Did this come to the USA? I don't think we got the 250 Magna.
No, I don't think we did get that. If we did, it was like a 1-year thing. I've never heard of the 250 Magna for sale in the States. I could be wrong, but I don't think that was a thing.
Yeah.
That does intrigue me, though.
He also said, this is actually kind of a cool bike. He also said, apparently in Australia, Kawasaki had an Eliminator V-twin 250.
Huh. Well, but the Eliminator was an inline 4. Then they just did a... Huh.
So is this guy.
That is very... The Magna 250 looks fucking sweet. Holy shit. Wait, which one's the Magna 250? The bottom one, right?
No, this is a Yamaha.
A Yamaha what?
I don't know.
Does it not say at the bottom? There's text underneath the image. I just can't read it from here.
No, he just said, not sure if there's another with this style. This is a Yamaha, which looks like it's aping the,
Well, it looks like a smaller version of what's the fucking V4 that they did that was like their...
This looks like a mini VMAX almost.
Yeah, but no, what's the one that was like the VMAX but wasn't? It was like a 650 kind of VMAX without the VMAX system. Oh my gosh, what was that bike called? Oh, they're so cool, but it wasn't Tracer. The Phaser.
Okay, yeah.
It looks more like a Phaser, like a 250 Phaser.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so which one's the 250 Magna?
This top one here.
Oh, okay. That's kind of the lamest of the bunch. Never mind. I mean, it's not bad, but yeah, it's weird. Kind of looking at these two, the Eliminator and the thing. The Vnox is a little less weird looking. I don't know. I'd probably have to see a Vnox picture next to it. Actually, no. Now that I think about the weird, like, although I haven't thought about this. What's with the weird little chrome? All three of these bikes have weird chrome flashes, kind of not unlike the Vnox. Like underneath the tank.
Yeah, it's...
What was going on with 250 cruisers and weird chrome underneath the tank in like the early 2000s?
I guess maybe it was just cool to have like a little chrome like faceplate on your airbox at the time.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense. Is
Maybe...
it didn't occur to me that was an airbox on the Vnox. I was like, it's a 250. Surely the air intake is just like under the seat or something. But yeah, I guess on a cruiser, it's not that weird to have it like just off to the side. And strangely, having a piece of chrome there is a little less awkward if it's only on one side. If it makes it a little asymmetrical. Okay.
Were we too harsh on the Vnox?
No. Well, we said that we like the Vnox. The problem is it was I don't remember exactly everything that we said, but I said multiple times, I was like, I know, like it's really awesome, but it's not quite there, right? It missed the mark enough to not be awesome. The problem with the Vnox really is that, and this kind of goes for the Sim Wolf that I said was like best bike in the world this week. There are parts of Asia that keep trying old ideas, and introducing them as a new idea ahead of their time in the United States. And the thing is that we'll go back in time and look at bikes and go, man, this was ahead of its time. But the truth is that nothing good has ever come from being ahead of your time. So
Okay.
all of a sudden, 250 cruisers kind of are a thing, right? There's a 230cc W bike now. There's the Rebel 300. There's whatever, right? And the economics are catching up now that, okay, having a really, really small displacement V-twin all of a sudden makes sense. But remember, even in 2018, the Buccaneer, right? That wasn't Moto Morini. Who did the Buccaneer? Was it Moto Morini?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There was a 250 V-twin that was released for sale in the States, and it was not for sale very long, called the Buccaneer.
Are you talking about the SSR?
It could have been an SSR, but I didn't think it was, but it could have been. It doesn't matter. Point is,
this bike?
I don't think it was that one, but maybe it was.
Well, this is going to be a new one, but...
It was a lot more actually classic style than that. But It could have been an SSR. I want to say it was in Vegas when we went to AIM in Vegas. Yeah, the all of a sudden these bikes make a lot of sense. People are like, oh, yeah, I can totally ride a motorcycle that tops out at 65 miles an hour. That's not the huge hit to people's ego that it used to be. People are like, it's not a downgrade from regular motorcycle. It's a huge upgrade from my e-bike that does 31 miles an hour after I tuned it.
Yeah.
Right? So the problem with the VNOX is it was a cool bike, but whilst looking on paper and going, oh, this should make a lot of sense to the Americans, they didn't quite do the research that they should have done.
Mm-hmm.
They should have been like, this is great. Put that in a drawer for another 10 years, and then we'll try this again. That's kind of the thing. There's no advantage to being ahead of your time. And I enjoy a noble failure, but the public in general doesn't. And you're only muddying the waters for your next idea that's ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
It's no good to be like, well, look, now people are selling, Honda's selling the shit out of a 300 single. But I should become fucking president because the VNOX was my idea to sell it in America. It's like your timing was all wrong. That's like someone at Honda right now going, it's no different than someone saying, guys, not as many people are selling 1200cc inline fours as they used to. We should sell a 1200cc inline super bike in the United States right now. And people are like, it's not 1998 anymore. What? Yeah. Right? Like, it's no different than being behind the time for your idea. Being ahead isn't good either. You kind of have to hit when it's the right time.
Mm-hmm.
For the weirdos that want one, they'll import or buy from the past whatever thing that was available that suits them. But where is, the big entry level markets, right? When people have crazy fucking credit and the economy's going gangbusters, yeah, it turns out you can sell people 600cc super sports as a beginner bike and they'll buy their first bike brand new and finance it. But you have to know when that comes to a stop. And like kind of right now is the time for a 250 V-twin that's priced at between $5,000 and $6,500.
Right.
And people will jump on it. The VNOX was just really ahead of its time. And I have to say the Koreans and the Chinese are really guilty of this. They've done it a lot. And also, I have to mention Cleveland Moto again. I love Cleveland Moto. If there are two shows I never miss, right? It's Cleveland Moto and Creative Riding. And I really do believe that the three best motorcycle podcasts are Creative Riding, Cleveland Moto, and us. Because I think we are the three motorcycle podcasts that have the most original takes. But Johnny Mac, we did not talk about the VNOX because you guys mentioned it. Like, you don't have a monopoly on the fact that weird motorcycles exist. We talk about two especially weird or notable motorcycles every week. We weren't eventually just going to like stumble upon the VNOX. It's a little far-fetched. Anyway, love you, Johnny Mac. It's not what we were doing. All right, we should get to the end of this and then do a little Patreon thing if we can after that.
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
Let's take a quick break here. Let's do the outro, and then we'll come back with Patreon stuff. And I don't want to die. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Cole.